August 22nd, Black Sea. The calm waters of Novorossiysk Bay hid a story that stunned the world. A Ukrainian naval drone, deployed deep behind enemy lines, suddenly went silent. Russian electronic warfare had severed its lifeline, leaving it drifting toward one of Moscow's most vital naval strongholds. What seemed like a victory for Russia was about to turn into a nightmare. Russian commanders scrambled their elite Frogmen, naval reconnaissance divers, trained for sabotage and recovery, armed with the best equipment money could buy. Their mission: seize the drone intact, bring it back, and unlock the secrets of Ukraine's growing unmanned arsenal. But as they closed in, disaster struck. The drone exploded. In a single violent flash, 5 of Russia's most highly trained commandos were erased beneath the waves. The very prize they sought had become their undoing. And just 2 days earlier, another blow had shaken the Black Sea. A Russian patrol boat near occupied Kherson, obliterated by a missile, its target painted by the invisible beam of a Ukrainian drone's laser. 2 strikes. 2 humiliations. The question now looms: has the era of unmanned warfare already begun? And is Russia prepared for what comes next? August 22nd, just after dawn. Over the Black Sea, Ukrainian military intelligence had unleashed another of its silent hunters, a naval drone engineered to strike at the very heart of Russia's Black Sea fleet. For hours, the drone glided beneath the horizon, transmitting data back to its operators. But then, without warning, the signal vanished. Russian electronic warfare units had locked on. Using powerful jammers, they severed the link between the drone and its control center. To Moscow's commanders, this was a rare moment of triumph. Instead of racing toward its target, the unmanned craft drifted helplessly, carried by currents into the sheltered waters of Novorossiysk Bay. Novorossiysk was no ordinary harbor. Once overshadowed by Sevastopol and Crimea, it had now become the nerve center of Russia's Black Sea operations. After repeated Ukrainian strikes crippled facilities in Crimea, Moscow had pulled much of its fleet to this safer port. Oil terminals, warships, and naval headquarters crowded the shoreline. To lose control of a drone here, within striking distance of Russia's most guarded base, was unthinkable. For Ukraine's intelligence officers, watching from afar, the silence was excruciating. A drone falling into Russian hands could mean more than a lost weapon. It could expose the very secrets that had allowed Kiev to challenge the Russian Navy with a fraction of its resources. These unmanned boats were not simple explosives strapped to hulls, they were precision instruments, designed with Western assistance, capable of evading radar and carrying payloads that could cripple a warship in minutes. If captured intact, Russia's engineers would dissect it, replicate it, and erase the advantage Ukraine had fought so hard to achieve. On the Russian side, excitement built. Naval Command recognized the rare opportunity. This was not wreckage to be fished from the waves. This was a live, intact Ukrainian naval drone. If recovered, it could change the balance in the Black Sea. Orders were issued swiftly. Mobilize the Frogmen. These were no ordinary divers. Russia's naval reconnaissance commandos were trained in sabotage, infiltration, and underwater demolition. Clad in advanced diving gear, carrying specialized tools, they had spent years preparing for missions exactly like this. The mission was clear: enter Novorossiysk Bay, secure the drifting drone, and return it to base for examination. What none of them knew was that the drone, though silent, was far from harmless. Its deadly core waited beneath the waterline, armed, unstable, and ready to detonate. What began as an operation to seize technology was about to descend into catastrophe. The order was given in hushed tones aboard the Russian command post overlooking Novorossiysk Bay. 5 frogmen from one of Moscow's most elite naval reconnaissance detachments were chosen. These men were not simple divers, they were graduates of Russia's toughest underwater sabotage programs. Schooled in stealth, explosives, and recovery missions, their reputation stretched back decades, often compared to the Navy SEALs of the United States. To lose them in training was rare. To send them into danger was costly. One by one, they slipped into the cold waters of the bay, carrying the pride of the Black Sea Fleet on their shoulders. Their task seemed straightforward: locate the drifting Ukrainian drone, disable any triggers, and tow it back for inspection. For the Kremlin, the mission promised not only a propaganda victory, but also access to the very weapon that had sunk and scarred so many Russian ships over the past year. As they swam toward the object, they found it strangely silent. No beeping trackers, no guiding light, just the dark shape of the unmanned vessel drifting like a ghost. They approached carefully, forming a cordon around it. Each man moved with precision, their underwater torches glinting across the drone's metallic hull. Back on shore, officers watched their progress with anticipation. If successful, the recovery would be trumpeted as proof that Russia could neutralize Ukraine's most advanced weapons. It would send a signal to sailors and citizens alike. The tide of drone warfare could be turned. But the drone was no trophy. Inside its hull rested a warhead, engineered to pierce steel and shatter warships. The loss of control did not disarm it. It remained armed, waiting, as though it carried a mind of its own. As one diver reached to secure the tow line, something shifted. A faint vibration rippled through the hull, undetectable to those above water. The next instant, detonation. The bay lit up in a muffled roar. A column of water and fire erupted skyward, scattering debris across the harbor. In less than a second, 5 men, some of the finest naval commandos in Russia, were gone. The explosion ripped through their gear, leaving nothing but shockwaves in the water. Onshore, silence fell across the command post. What was meant to be a recovery had turned into humiliation. Instead of seizing Ukraine's secrets, Russia had lost 5 of its elite. And in Kiev, Ukrainian intelligence officers took note. Whether the detonation was automatic, accidental, or intentional remained uncertain. What mattered was clear. Not only had the drone denied Russia a prize, it had delivered a deadly blow to Moscow's prestige. Just 2 days before the Novorossiysk disaster, another shock had already shaken Russia's naval presence in the Black Sea. It was the night of August 20th, near the occupied town of Zaliznyi Port in Kherson Oblast. The waters there were dark, still, watched constantly by Russian patrol boats tasked with securing the coastline. But on this night, those watchful eyes failed. Overhead, a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone circled silently, its camera fixed on a Russian patrol vessel slicing through the water below. This drone was no ordinary scout. Mounted on its underside was a laser designator, a device that could paint a target with invisible light, guiding a missile to its mark with pinpoint precision. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Ukrainian artillery crews stood ready. Coordinates were locked. The drone's laser beam, unseen by the naked eye, drew a perfect line across the waves, highlighting the patrol boat like prey caught in a sniper's scope. And then it came. A missile streaked across the sky, homing in on the invisible beam. In seconds, the projectile slammed into the vessel, detonating with devastating force. Flames engulfed the deck. The explosion tore through steel plating, splitting open compartments, sending water rushing inside. Within minutes, the patrol boat was sinking, its 5 crew members lost to the sea. Ukraine's military intelligence, the HUR, released the details soon after, claiming responsibility for the strike. Video from the drone captured the moment of impact, a blinding flash, a plume of smoke, and the unmistakable silhouette of a Russian warship breaking apart. For Kiev, it was proof not only of technical mastery, but of the relentless reach of its unmanned arsenal. For Moscow, it was humiliation. Patrol boats were supposed to dominate these shallow waters, chasing smugglers, guarding ports, intercepting small craft. Yet here was a patrol ship destroyed, not by a conventional naval ambush, but by the guiding light of a drone hovering invisibly above. Western analysts were quick to take note. The strike demonstrated a new dimension of Ukraine's warfare. Drones not only as kamikaze vessels or explosive boats, but as airborne directors of precision fire. It showed integration, reconnaissance, guidance, and destruction woven together into a single strike package. And for Russian sailors across the Black Sea, it carried a chilling message. No ship, no matter how small or well-armed, could move without being tracked, painted, and destroyed by eyes in the sky. The 2 incidents, the explosion in Novorossiysk Bay and the laser-guided strike near Kherson, were not isolated accidents. Together, they revealed something larger. Ukraine had carved out a new battlefield, one where steel and tradition gave way to circuitry, precision, and audacity. For months, Russian warships had attempted to dominate the Black Sea through sheer mass and firepower. But Ukraine, with a fraction of the resources, had turned instead to innovation. Unmanned surface vessels, often referred to as USVs, became the spearhead. Small, fast, and difficult to detect, these naval drones carried warheads powerful enough to cripple destroyers. Alongside them, reconnaissance drones in the air acted as silent spotters, feeding coordinates, painting targets, and turning every patrol into a potential death trap. Behind these machines stood Ukraine's military intelligence, the HUR, and specialized naval detachments like Group 13. Their strategy was not to match Russia's ship for ship, but to undermine its confidence, to prove that no harbor was safe and no fleet untouchable. Each successful strike sent ripples far beyond the waves, into Kremlin war rooms, into the morale of Russian sailors, and into the calculations of allies watching closely. Western analysts noted the shift. Where Russia relied on traditional strength, submarines, patrol vessels, fortified ports, Ukraine exploited agility and surprise. A drone the size of a small boat could force the Black Sea Fleet to retreat from Crimea. A UAV with a laser designator could reduce a patrol craft to twisted wreckage. This was asymmetric warfare at its most striking, brains over brawn, precision over power. And yet, technology alone was not the story. Behind the circuits and optics was human resolve. Ukrainian engineers worked tirelessly to improve designs, adapting with each engagement. Operators risked interception and death to guide these missions deep into enemy waters. Intelligence officers coordinated with precision, blending courage with calculation. To many in Kiev, the message was clear. Drones were not simply tools, they were symbols. Symbols that Ukraine, though battered and blockaded, would not yield the sea. Symbols that even against one of the world's largest navies, determination could level the field. For Russia, the lesson was equally stark. Its Frogmen, among the best-trained soldiers in its arsenal, had been obliterated by a drifting machine. Its patrol vessels, symbols of control along occupied coasts, had been erased by invisible light from above. No amount of training, funding, or tradition could shield them from a new age of warfare already unfolding. The sea, once Russia's sanctuary, was becoming Ukraine's proving ground. The destruction in Novorossiysk Bay and near Kherson was more than the loss of 5 divers and a single patrol boat. It was a signal that the Black Sea itself was slipping out of Moscow's control. Once, Russia's admirals boasted of dominance from Crimea to the Caucasus. Today, they are forced to withdraw major assets from Sevastopol, retreating to Novorossiysk, a port never intended to shoulder the full weight of the Black Sea Fleet. Yet even there, danger follows. The bay that was supposed to be a fortress became the scene of humiliation, where elite frogmen perished at the hands of a machine. And along the shallow coasts of Kherson, patrol boats meant to enforce Russian authority now lie broken beneath the waves. Every vessel that leaves port does so under the shadow of unseen eyes. Drones circling high above, drones skimming silently across the water. For Ukraine, these victories carry both symbolic and strategic weight. Symbolically, they remind the nation and the world that ingenuity can overcome disparity. Strategically, they erode Russia's ability to project power from the sea, strangling supply lines, isolating occupied territories. Each strike narrows Moscow's options, forcing it into defense, draining resources meant for offense. But the future is uncertain. Russia is adapting. Electronic warfare grows stronger, counter-drone measures multiply, and the Kremlin is unlikely to accept humiliation without reply. The question is not whether Russia will respond, but how. Will it attempt to unleash swarms of its own unmanned craft? Will it double down on missile strikes against Ukrainian infrastructure? Or will it seek to choke the coastline with mines and blockades? Naval experts warn that the Black Sea is becoming the world's test bed for 21st century warfare. Unmanned systems are rewriting doctrines once thought unshakable. Patrols, convoys, even ports once considered secure, are suddenly vulnerable. If drones can hold the line here, what might they do in the Pacific, the Mediterranean, or the Arctic? And for American audiences watching, the lesson is sobering. The future of naval conflict may not rest solely in aircraft carriers or destroyers, but in fleets of machines guided by satellites, lasers, and human determination. So we ask you, watching from afar, which tactic do you find more decisive? The drone that self-destructed to deny Russia its secrets, or the drone that guided fire with surgical precision? And if drones can bring a superpower fleet to its knees, how long before every navy on Earth is forced to change the way it fights? When the waters of Novorossiysk Bay finally settled, there was little left to show what had happened. 5 Russian frogmen, men trained for sabotage, infiltration, and survival, had vanished in an instant. The very drone they sought to capture had turned against them, denying Moscow a prize and delivering a humiliation that echoed across the Black Sea. And in Kherson, the wreckage of a patrol boat still rusted beneath the waves. 5 sailors gone, a vessel obliterated, not by torpedoes or airstrikes, but by a beam of light guiding a missile home. The Black Sea, once Russia's arena of strength, now felt like a trap. Every harbor, a target. Every patrol, a gamble. For Ukraine, these two strikes told a single story. That courage and innovation could stand against mass and tradition. Drones, whether skimming across the water or hovering above, had reshaped the balance of power. No longer was naval might defined only by displacement, armor, and tonnage. Now speed, precision, and daring could tilt the scales. To the world, the message was unmistakable. We are watching a new era of naval warfare unfold, in real time. This is not the Cold War sea power of giants clashing with fleets of carriers. This is an age where a silent machine, smaller than a fishing boat, can force a superpower into retreat. Where a drone's invisible laser can turn steel into fire. Where resolve matters as much as technology, and where the future belongs not to the largest fleets, but to the smartest. And for Americans, there is a lesson in pride and vigilance. The same spirit that drives Ukraine to resist, ingenuity, determination, and sacrifice, is the spirit that defines our own Navy. For generations, American sailors have stood watch on distant seas, armed not only with steel, but with courage. And now, as drones redraw the rules of battle, our nation must remain ready. Ready to adapt. Ready to innovate. Ready to ensure that freedom is always defended on every ocean. Because in the end, the Black Sea is not just Ukraine's fight. It is a symbol, a reminder that tyranny can be challenged, that technology can empower the smaller against the larger, and that the human will to resist cannot be drowned. So we leave you with this question. Are we witnessing the dawn of a new age, where unmanned fleets decide the fate of wars, and where the silent machines of today become the guardians of tomorrow? If you believe these stories must be told, if you stand with those who risk everything for freedom, then join us. Like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel for more frontline stories of courage, innovation, and resolve. Because history is being written on the waves, and together we will ensure it is never forgotten.